Alright, hey guys, welcome back to TV Talk. My name is Anissa Cruz.
I'm Sebastian Hughes.
And today we're going to be discussing our favorite animated TV shows just for you. So the first show we're going to discuss today is Young Justice, brought to you by Sebastian here.
Hey, so I actually got into Young Justice as it was ending, and by ending I mean canceled, because bad toy sales led to the show being canceled prematurely after season 2. It's a whole thing. I'm not bitter about it. But, so it started in 2010 and it ran until 2013. And it is basically a superhero show about the DC sidekick characters. So you've got Robin, sidekick to Batman, Aqualad, sidekick to Aquaman, Miss Martian, sidekick to Martian Manhunter, Kid Flash, and it's a really interesting show because the creators, Greg Weisman and Brandon Vietti, when they were making the show, they were approached by DC and Warner Brothers, and they were asked to make some sort of animated superhero show about kids, because there hadn't been one in a while. And they were trying to think, because Teen Titans had already gone and Justice League had already gone, and they were like, how do we make this different? So what they ended up doing was they attempted to make it more of a covert ops show. So the basis of the show is superheroes are so big that there's a lot of stuff that they can't do covertly. So that's where their sidekicks come in, and as a team. And it really does deal with, it's a covert ops show, but then secondly, before it's a superhero show, it's also a teenage drama. And young adult, because as it moves forward, one interesting thing about this show is that the characters do age. There's a 5-year gap between season 1 and season 2, and you see how they evolve and become young adults, and how they change from the start of the show to the end of the show. So it has tremendous characters. Each person I talk to about it has a different favorite character, which I think is a really good sign of a TV show. There's a thorough plot line that is, because it was canceled prematurely, is still ongoing, but it always has one episode each season where it's like you discover the secrets that you never knew were there. It's very mature and complex for a kid's show. And if you're wondering why am I talking about this if it's already over, it's because the fans rallied, and it will now have a third season. It will now have a third season on DC's new streaming service, and this new season, because it's on a streaming service, and a lot of the fans aren't kids anymore, and weren't kids to begin with, they're going to take it in some more mature directions, so I'm really excited for that, and that's going to premiere in, they said sometime in 2018, so I'm really pumped for that, and if you're a fan of Justice League and Teen Titans and maybe want something that's maybe more for adults, definitely check it out.
Do you think what's happening with the movies, with the DCU, is going to have any effect
not if
the TV show?
Not if the creators have anything to do with it. It's very much separate from the Arrowverse, and it's very much separate from the movies. I think that it probably will stay standalone, and I think it's good for it.
So the next show we're going to be talking about is Archer, a sitcom that's on the FX network. Basically it's about Sterling Archer, who's a self-proclaimed spy, the world's greatest spy. And it's kind of like a workplace comedy. It follows this agency called ISIS, later changed after the whole, real ISIS in our own world. And it follows Archer, Lana, who's his ex-girlfriend and also co-spy, his emotionally distant mother, Cyril, who's Lana's boyfriend, Cheryl, and Pam, who are just kind of secretaries in HR, and they kind of work together. What makes this show so interesting is that it kind of takes a workplace comedy and a spy adventure type of TV show and kind of puts them together, which I think makes it really interesting. It has a lot of wit. It's dry and sarcastic, which I particularly like. It's not a lot of oh, they fall or they mess up and that's what makes it hilarious. It's what they actually say that makes it so funny. There's a nice ensemble that really complement each other, and through the seasons you kind of see different relationships form. Some people start screwing each other, some people just become better friends, and even relationships are born, which is really sweet. All the characters are super complex. You kind of see with Archer, for example, who may have all this self-confidence, but we get a lot of flashbacks from his childhood with his mother, and he was treated poorly. His mother was never around. He was just kind of forced into this whole spy thing, and he really just doesn't have any sort of confidence. He's just very insecure, which leads to a lot of jokes in the show. So what's interesting about the show is that each season's a little different. After season 4, they kind of went away from the whole just spy agency, and they actually went from drug dealers to private investigators, a la like Miami Vice. They also had film noir in the most current season, where Archer, spoiler alert, was in a coma, and so this is kind of like his dreamland. He just wants to be in this film noir
For an entire season?
for an entire season. So I think the show doesn't like to be stuck in its own bubble, and I think they realized after season 4 they were kind of doing the same thing over and over again, which is not necessarily a bad thing. People do like shows that kind of stay consistent and just have different jokes and obviously complex characters. But I think what this show, what the creators really wanted to do is kind of put different settings and kind of showcase how the spy genre has changed over the years, which I think is really interesting. And they actually do them well. Like, they do like a really well done like film noir where they have like very particular lighting. They even change the animation, the colors, and everything to fit each season, which I think makes this TV show so appealing. So for next season, they just finished the film noir. So for the next season, they're actually going to go to one called Danger Island, which is a reference to this joke that's told throughout the show called Danger Zone. The main character, Archer, really loves Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone.
As do I.
So anytime they go on a mission, he'll literally yell at Lana. Like, he'll be like, Lana, 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 and then they just keep yelling at her, and he's like, Danger Zone. That's a whole joke throughout the entire show. It's hilarious. And so I'm assuming they were just like, we're going to give like Archer this season that he's always wanted. And apparently it's going to follow like World War II like investigators or something like that, which I think is going to be very interesting because we really haven't seen a lot of like spy World War II movies or TV shows recently. At least it doesn't come up to my mind, which I think is going to be very interesting. So that's going to come out sometime in 2018. There's no release date, kind of like Young Justice, but apparently 2018 is going to be a
good year for animation.
Great year for animation. So the next show we're going to be talking about is Gravity Falls, one of Sebastian's personal favorites, so why don't you take it away?
So Gravity Falls came out in 2012 on the Disney Channel, and you know, this I think was a pretty dry spell for Disney Channel in terms of good animated shows.
I mean, Phineas and Ferb is kind of maybe like the last one.
Yeah, Phineas and Ferb probably was the last one. Man, that was huge in middle school. It's a kind of that show about siblings that move to this in the middle of nowhere town for the summer, which is kind of a concept that you've heard before, and you know, crazy stuff happens. There's so much weird stuff about this town. Dipper and Mabel Pines are the two siblings. Dipper is kind of a loner, adventure-seeking, paranoid little kid that wants to be cool, has a crush on an older woman, sort of a typical guy.
Just your typical guy.
Just your typical guy. And Mabel, his twin sister, is very much a dork / very young. I mean, she's 12, but she has like the mindset of a 5-year-old. And she's very much owns it. She's very proud of who she is, which is, you know, go Mabel. So they go to this town to stay with their great Uncle Stan, or who as they call Grunkle Stan. And he owns a kind of souvenir shop where he sells fake like supernatural mythical objects. But there's actually a lot of weird stuff in this town. And so each episode, it takes like a different twist on something that you traditionally see, like clones, the Loch Ness Monster, being a different size, like growing up and down. There's one where their pet pig gains sentience. But it's very good. Like, like it doesn't sound good. Like from the description of it, it doesn't sound good. I did not think it would be good from like watching the commercials for it, but I gave it a shot, and it's surprisingly funny and clever. It's I'm probably a little too old for it now when I watch the show. It was like just on the cusp of
You're
like.
never too old for a good animated show.
True. I mean, check it out. If we have any 70-year-old viewers, please check out Gravity Falls. Comment below. Tell us what you think. There's like mystery to like Grunkle Stan and his dynamic. He's like, you first meet him and you think he's like a con artist, but there's actually like this hidden mystery to his relationship in the town and his family and his brother and the government and this like interdimensional demon. And it's, I know,
Going places.
it's really weird, but it's so bonkers that, you know, you either love it or you don't, and I think it's actually very good, very funny. It only lasts 2 seasons, which in a way I admire because the creator was just like, I think the story should end here. But it's actually one of those shows that I think it really could have continued. And he said that if he ever gets any ideas about it, he'll continue it. But yeah, for right now, it seems like it's going to end after 2 seasons, and it has a full story. So if you're looking for something that's not going to just be like a different episode each episode and then it never goes anywhere, this is not that show. This is gonna end and it's gonna be funny and it's gonna be weird and it's gonna be a mystery to uncover. It has an amazing opening theme song that's just sort of like, yeah, it's really good. And it gives you a vibe. You know, whenever a theme song gives you a vibe, it sells me. So definitely check it out if you want some like really kooky, funny mystery.
I hear, at least from the creators of Rick and Morty, which is a show we will discuss later, that Gravity Falls is actually connected to the Rick and Morty universe.
I did not know that, but that makes it so much cooler.
There you go. It's like the kid version
Yeah,
of Rick and Morty.
It kind of is, actually. There's less, you know, depression that I feel when watching it. It's more just like pure optimistic joy.
A kid's show.
It's a kid's show. Like, out of all the shows we're going to discuss today, this is definitely a kid's show.
So the next show we're going to be discussing is BoJack Horseman, a Netflix show. Based around this washed up 90s heartthrob, I could say, named BoJack Horseman, who was in this famous 90s show called Horsin' Around. Funny. And how he's dealing with his large decline in popularity. So originally the show was kind of brought up as a critique on show business, celebrity, and just popularity in general. And critics actually disliked the first half of the show. Like early reviews came out and they were like, this is kind of like lowbrow comedy, like it isn't really that good, it's kind of boring. And then I guess they just did the review before they finished the whole season, which doesn't make any sense to me. But once they got to the second half of season 1, they had rave reviews. Like they were like, this show is brilliant, it's witty, it's smart. This really is a great critique on like how celebrities deal with their day-to-day lives, as well as audience members like watching this show being like, is that how like we act? Is this how we truly like see celebrities? So the creators were kind of wanting to go that route, but then in season 2, they kind of went into more of a mental health route, where they kind of went into BoJack's like childhood past, and we kind of see, similar to Archer actually, that his parents were absolutely horrible to him. He grew up in a very like rich family who's very like wealthy, but unfortunately like, his mother was never there for him. He kind of called him crap all the time, that he was like kind of a waste of space. And this kind of like ended up this kind of led to him wanting like all the attention, and so that's why he became kind of like a TV star. And so him not being in like the limelight anymore has kind of put him into this type of depression. And so the show kind of like but kind of goes into his depression, his anxiety, and like what kind of the meaning of life is for him, and like what he's gonna do. Like, does he actually have any friends? And there's a great ensemble cast with this one as well. In the beginning of season 1, he actually has a ghostwriter write a book for him, and she's a great character. So just to give a little precursor to the show and like how the universe is kind of made up. So this show is kind of half human, half animal type of relation where like there's animals in this world, there's humans in this world, animals and humans can get together and it's not like a weird bestiality type of thing.
Oh, good.
It's very normal.
That's weird
Bojack
about-
is kind of this like humanoid animal. He's not walking on all four like hooves, I suppose. He's
Hooves.
definitely hooves. Excuse me. He's definitely just like a horse that happens to just walk and talk like a human.
Do other horses or animals walk on all fours?
So this is where the show kind of gets interesting. It kind of depends because there is a scene where there are horses like running like how we just see our horses day to day. So I think it just kind of depends on what you want in this world, specifically if you're an animal. Like you can be what we think of as an animal in our world, or you can be like BoJack Horseman where you're kind of just like a human essentially.
Okay, choice is good.
So choice is good, I suppose. Definitely don't watch this show all at once. It's not like a fun show. It's funny for sure, but it's not like laugh out loud. It's definitely a smarter show in that respect.
I've heard it's really depressing.
It's very depressing. It's one of those shows where like don't watch like all season in like one go. Like you definitely want to take your time because you are gonna like feel some things because they do have like they have existential questions, and they really like dig into this mental health thing and in a very like mature way where it's not like offensive to anybody who does deal with like depression and anxiety. If anything, it like brings light to it. But yeah, it's definitely a different show that's on television. I think that's what makes it so compelling. And there's gonna be a season 5, I believe, and it's supposed to come out sometime in 2018. But there hasn't 2018 is gonna be the year. I mean, it's Netflix, so they always just bring back the new season every season. So I'm super excited to see what's gonna come from BoJack Horseman and his ensemble cast, and I'm super excited.
Do you want a crossover with Zootopia?
There's no way that Disney would ever allow
I know.
this show.
But let's just.
I don't, because first the animation is very different, but second, one is definitely a kids movie, a great kids movie.
You don't want Judy Hopps to meet BoJack Horseman?
God no. So the last show we're going to discuss, and we're both going to equally kind of discuss this to wrap this up, is Rick and Morty, which is a personal favorite of us both. We couldn't like share.
Yeah, no,
like we couldn't like one person discuss it, so we had to share this.
Yeah.
And it's probably a personal favorite of all of you. Who doesn't love this show? I'm gonna let Sebastian take it away on kind of like a summary if you haven't seen this show. If you kind of want to.
Yeah. So actually, I got into it late, like probably like a month ago, and I binge watched like the entire first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
3 seasons.
So
right?
yeah, season 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's basically Back to the Future, but severely messed up.
Yes.
Instead of this being like a teacher, scientist, and high schooler, it's Morty, not Marty. It's Marty McFly, but it's Morty, and his grandfather Rick Sanchez. Grandpa Rick is a alcoholic, severely. Not abusive, but the
Severely
relationship.
depressed as well as narcissistic.
Yes, it's basically like he's brilliant and can do almost anything, and he has his biggest invention is like this portal gun, so he can go to different alternate universes, including alternate versions of themselves and universes where nothing makes sense, and basically Morty. It's this relationship between Morty and his grandfather Rick. It's very troublesome. Basically, if I get the backstory correctly, Rick left Morty's mother when she was young, and he's just recently come back into their lives. And the reason they allow Morty to go off with Rick is because the mother's afraid that her father's gonna leave again.
Yeah. There's a whole cast of characters that isn't just Rick and Morty, even though those are the 2 main characters of the show. We do have his sister.
Summer.
Thank you. Summer.
One of my favorites. Like.
Yeah, she's a great character, as well as the mother and father.
Beth and Jerry.
Beth and Jerry. Jerry is.
Have you ever seen that like Facebook post where it's just like tag the Jerriest person you know and it has this weird cartoon character? It's from Rick and Morty.
If you get tagged, you
I'm so
should
sorry
be
for
offended.
you. Yeah.
Jerry is just like this idiot who
Knocked up Beth.
knocked up Beth very young. And that's kind of why they're together. And there's a lot of episodes that explore Beth and Jerry's relationship.
So many episodes.
But one in particular where they go into this alien relationship therapy whole ordeal, weekend essentially. And their monsters that they created of each other actually destroy the entire building.
Yeah.
So for me, Rick and Morty didn't start too well. I didn't particularly like the first couple episodes of season 1.
Mm-hmm. There's
Rick
an episode that I think probably changes everything.
Yeah, there's definitely a turning
I don't think we
point.
should spoil.
Yeah, there's definitely a turning point in season 1. And this show kind of explores so many themes that we've actually discussed in our other shows. The supernatural, parallel universes, existential crisis, as well as alternate timelines, depression, anxiety, narcissism, divorce. So many things are packed into this show.
Pickle Rick.
And it's very Marxist, there is no such thing as the glass is half full.
No.
Essentially. This whole show is basically nothing actually matters, you don't matter, and everything you're saying is stupid.
Yeah.
And then to kind of wrap up Rick and Morty as a whole, there are emotional moments that stay emotional. It's not all a joke.
Mm-hmm. It goes to some dark places.
It goes to some very dark places regarding relationships, family, suicide, even with Rick's own mental health. And just because Rick can and will do anything, he's a very flawed character. And that's what makes him so interesting, for sure. And flawed in the way that he doesn't know what he's doing in the end. He might be the smartest person in the world, but he's definitely the dumbest person when it comes to people.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he hates people and he doesn't want to hang out with them. But there's still a great relationship with Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And he does love him no matter what he actually says.
Yeah.
So definitely check out this show. If you're a fan of all the shows we just kind of discussed, this show kind of has all of that in just one go. It's one of those things where you kind of just have to watch it, get into it, and you'll absolutely love it. There's definitely an episode for everyone. But that's going to wrap things up for us. My name's Anissa.
I'm Sebastian.
And we'll see you next time in our next TV Talk episode. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel.
WMTV 1693.
Yeah, comment and like. We'll appreciate it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.